Okay, Algebra 2, this is day 9 of your trig graph unit. Day 9 is all about the vertical shift, also called the midline. Before we do that, let's do a little review of day 8. Alright, we did a little bit on graphs of y equals sine of x and y equals cosine of x. Alright, a few things to keep straight. Alright, sine x, we're talking about the y coordinates on the unit circle as you go around the unit circle. Alright, let's make a quick sketch of this, what it looks like. Any sine graph, alright, get used to this. Starts at 0, usually goes up, back down, and then back to where you started from. Alright, for just the basic sine of x, it goes up to 1, down to negative 1, right? Because that's the radius of the unit circle. Always starts at 0. This is 2 pi right now. That's going to change eventually. Alright, the other thing in day 8 that we threw in there, we start throwing numbers in front. Alright, so say you threw like a y equals 2 sine of x in there, and then it changes this to 2, to negative 2. Alright, that was the amplitude. If you have a negative, like y equals negative sine of x, I think we mentioned this, negative just means it goes the other way. Alright, starts at 0 still, goes down, back up, back to where you started. Alright, it's just multiplying it by negative. If you remember your transformations, that's just to flip over the x-axis. That's going to be helpful for this unit as well, if you remember that stuff. Same idea for cosine x. Just basic cosine of x, what that look like. Well, cosine is your x-coordinates around the unit circle. So at 0, the x-coordinate was actually 1. So this graph looks a little bit different. Goes down, goes back up. Alright, because at 2 pi or at 360, right, your x-coordinate is back to 1. If you throw numbers in front of it, it's just a vertical stretch, right? It changes these numbers. If you have a negative sign, like a negative cosine of x, same graph, just flipped over the x-axis. Instead of starting at the positive 1, you start at the negative 1. Oops, horrible picture, but you get the idea, all right? So if you know your transformation, it's gonna be a little bit easier. If not, there's still lots of things to keep track of. All right, so that's a little bit of day 8. Day 9 starts throwing more things at you, all right? So I'll give you an example. This is in your notes. If you have them, print them off, great. If not, try to catch on from this. Let's just do this on 2 cosine of x plus 1. So we're just gonna throw in some adding, subtracting at the end of this. If you remember transformations, all right, the vertical stretch is the number out front. If I put plus or minus some number at the end, that's just a vertical shift. All right, plus 1 would be up 1. So quick sketch of this. All right, you can graph it later if you need to. All right, it's easier just to make a quick sketch maybe. Start with what you know. It's gonna be a cosine graph. All right, so cosine graph I know starts up here, goes down, comes back up. Looks like an upside down bell almost. All right. The 2 is my amplitude. So that means I'm going to go up 2, down to negative 2. All right. But today we're throwing this plus 1 in here. So this is just a quick sketch, not the final graph. This plus 1 moves this picture up 1. So instead of starting at 2, I'm actually going to start at 3. All right. So I'll move all of this up 1. So here's my real picture. Oops, close it off. All right, again, don't worry about the endpoint so much. Right now it's 2 pi, that's gonna change next day's notes. All right, so quick sketch, maybe running that through your head. If you're actually graphing this, all right, again, helps that graph paper probably, but close enough. Originally, the cosine graph has this shape. The 2 started at 2, the plus 1 though, now it's gonna start at 3. So again, if you're actually doing it to scale, there's 3, all right. You want to label everything. Good habit actually get into. Halfway across is pi. 2 pi, this is pi over 2. 3 pi over 2, just like we're labeling the unit circle. All right, so we know this one starts at 2, but we're up 1 now, so it's at 3. Halfway across, I was at negative 2. I shifted that up 1. So halfway across, now I'm at negative 1. All right, at 2 pi, I'm back to where I started, so I must be at 3 again. All right, imagine yourself going around the unit circle, but now you're multiplying it by 2 here, adding 1 to the whole thing, right? Halfway was pi, half of that, pi over 2. Well, you were at 0, so now you're up 1. Same thing here. All right. Hopefully your picture is better than mine. Close enough. All right, again, you should label all that good stuff. Have graph paper helps. That's y equals 2 cosine x plus 1. All right, this plus 1 is called the midline. Remember the numbers out front are amplitude. Amplitude is never negative. If there's a negative sign in front of it, it just means go the other direction first. Instead of start at the top, start at the bottom. If it's a sine graph, go the other way. Amplitude is always positive though. Midline could be a negative, could be a positive, either one. Another one from your notes. If you have them, great. Look at them. If you haven't, let's just try to make a quick sketch of this. Y equals 4 sine of x minus 2. All right, so some things we have to start thinking of. It's a sine graph, all right? So maybe smaller sketch. This is what a sine graph looks like. Sine graph starts at the 0, goes up, back to where you started, down, back here, all right? There's a sine graph. Remember, it's the y coordinates around the unit circle. Good label it, good enough for now. All right, halfway across is pi. Now you're gonna start changing this, all right? What's sine of x? Now the 4. The 4 says, it's my amplitude. I gotta go 4 up, 4 down. So that was now negative 4 down here. Well, the minus 2 takes this graph and shifts the whole thing down 2. So if I shift that whole thing down 2, I gotta still start here. All right, but now it's down 2. So now I'm at negative 2. If I'm shifting it, well, I did go up to 4 here, but now it's down 2. So now I'm at positive 2. All right. Keep it going. Eventually you get there. My picture's gonna be horrible on this one, but you get the idea. All right, so I started at -2, I ended at -2. All right, it did go up to 4, and I'm gonna go up here to positive 2. It did go to -4, but now it's down 2, so now it's actually -6. Picture's not to scale at all, but you get the idea. All right. Again, graph paper makes it easier. Same idea. Once you get used to it, not as bad. It does take practice though. Lots of little things to keep track of. The last thing in the notes starts talking about the range, and you can just see how far down, how far up they all go. All right. There is one in the graph. Number 4 in the notes, I'll just talk about it for a second. They give you this picture, they give you some points on the graph. This is the highest it gets, the lowest it gets. Highest is 22, the lowest is 6. The midline is right in between them. How do you find what's in between? You just take the average of them, add them, divide by 2. The midline is 14. All right. Amplitude is how far above or below the midline you went. So if I'm at 14, right here is 14. The amplitude is now, well, how to get from 14 to 22? It's 8 up. All right, you also want 8 below. All right. The more graphing we do, you'll start to see we start at the midline. All right, start at the midline, amplitude that far above, that far below. Takes practice, we'll get there eventually.